They escorted her off the carrier without a word, just like that. No charges read, no salutes exchanged, no explanations offered. The sound of boots on steel was the only signal that something was about to change. She stood at the railing, eyes fixed on the horizon, hands resting on cold metal as if trying to anchor herself to something that wouldn't move. When she turned, they were already beside her, two sailors in silent formation. She didn't ask where or why. She didn't need to. She knew. She nodded once, tucked the folded flag tighter beneath her arm, and walked out. Not with defiance, but with dignity. Around her, the crew looked away. No one met her gaze. A few pretended to busy themselves with rope or rail. Others just stared at their boots. It wasn't hatred, it was silence. The kind that weighs heavier than words. The kind that says, "We see you, we just won't speak for you." And so Sarah Hale, decorated officer, flight deck commander, and daughter of the sea, walked alone across the deck she once ruled. Like a ghost being quietly erased by the morning fog, Sarah wasn't just another officer. Woman to command a flight deck on a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, she earned that position not with noise, but with grit. Through typhoons in the Pacific, close calls in the Strait, and the kind of endless drills that grind a soul thin. Never asked for special treatment. She didn't need it. Her people respected her not because of her rank, but because of how she wore it with steadiness, with quiet strength. I remember hearing her name years ago, whispered by young officers with awe. She runs a tighter deck than anyone, they'd say, but she never yells. Her crew knew she'd stand with them in a storm. They knew she'd be the last to sleep and the first to rise. She didn't just lead them, she protected them. The Navy didn't hand her command. She carved it from steel and salt water, and yet, despite all she had proven, the moment she bent the rules for something human, that same Navy turned away. It happened during a burial at sea. A young sailor, barely 20, had lost his brother in a training accident. Regulations were clear. Only immediate family could remain on deck. Officers were to stay back. Orders were orders. But when the boy's legs gave out beside the railing, when he clutched the flag like it was the only thing holding him together, Sarah stepped forward. She didn't wait. She knelt beside him, one hand on his back, the other helping him steady. The folded triangle that had just been handed to him. It was small, quiet, unnoticed by many, but not by command. She had broken protocol. Not for glory, not for rebellion, but for comfort. For one grieving soul on a cold morning when the sea had taken too much. That was her crime. Not insubordination, not neglect, but compassion. And in a world ruled by procedure, compassion doesn't always get a vote. That small gesture, a hand on a sailor's shoulder, would echo louder in the wrong rooms than all her years of spotless service. They didn't strip her of rank. They didn't court-martial her. That would have made noise. No, they did something worse. They erased her. Quietly. Efficiently. The orders came down without a name attached. No press, no ceremony. Just a date, a time, and an instruction. Remove. Her before the next watch. So when the moment came, no one said goodbye. No crew assembled. No hands saluted. Even the chaplain avoided her gaze. That's how the machine works with silence. The same silence that follows orders, even when they make no sense. The same silence that trains you to swallow injustice, because breaking ranks is worse than being wrong. And so the woman who had once led men into storms with nothing but a radio and resolve, now walked past them as if she'd never been there. I've seen that kind of silence before. It stings more than anger. It's the silence of fear. People who know better but choose to survive instead of speak. Her boots met the steel one last time. A long, steady walk from the carrier center to the loading platform. The wind whipped the air around her, tugging at her coat like it, too, wanted her to stay, but no one else did. There was no crowd, no honor guard, just paperwork waiting at the edge of the pier, ready to file her under discharged administrative. The folded flag pressed tight against her ribs. That flag didn't belong to the Navy. It belonged to her brother, lost in the same ocean that now watched her go. His name was etched into the ship's memorial wall. And still, they asked her to leave quietly. When her boots hit the wooden dock, it felt like stepping out of one world and into another. One colder, emptier, lonelier. She paused, drew a long breath. The sea stretched before her. Behind, the ship loomed, silent and indifferent. That's when the sound came. Low at first, like a whisper rising from the deep, then louder, a vibration beneath the dock, a tremor in the water. She turned. Out on the waves, a shadow cut through the surface. A tower breached the foam, black steel glistening in the sun. A nuclear submarine, surfacing miles from where it was scheduled to be. That wasn't routine. That was defiance. One by one, sailors emerged on the sub's deck, lining up in silence. Not a word, no signal, just a slow, deliberate formation. Then a single figure stepped forward, older, firm, unmistakable. Captain. He raised his hand in salute. Sharp, unflinching. Behind him, every sailor followed. One after another, arms rose in quiet tribute. Sarah froze. Her eyes welled, but she stood still. That boat wasn't just off course, it had broken protocol. For her, for what she stood for what they remembered. They weren't just honoring her, or correcting her wrong. She returned the salute. Her hand trembled, but she held it high. The folded flag still pinned to her ribs, its edges now soaked with the mist of the rising tide. That submarine didn't need permission. It didn't need clearance. It had honor. And in that moment, Sarah's story changed. She wasn't just a dismissed officer. She was a woman saluted by the sea. And those men, they weren't just breaking rank, or restoring it, or telling her, and the world, that some rules deserve to be broken, that not all orders are just, that sometimes a silent salute carries more truth than 100. Shouted commands, sub remained only minutes before submerging again, slipping back into classified waters. But the message stayed above the surface, loud, clear, unmistakable. There are things we never forget. The way steel smells in the rain, the sound of a boot hitting the deck at midnight. The silence of a salute held just a second longer than regulation allows. That's what those sailors gave her. Not a speech, not a medal, but memory. They gave her back something the system had taken, dignity. That moment, that rising of the deep, will live longer than any dismissal order. Sarah didn't need a parade. She needed to be seen. And they saw her, in formation, in silence, in defiance. Because some things matter more than regulation. Some gestures cut deeper than punishment. And in their refusal to look away, they gave her the only honor that counts. The kind born not from policy, but from loyalty. I've been in uniform, stood on decks where wind was the only witness. And I'll tell you this, honor isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a hand on, a shoulder. Sometimes it's walking away with your head held high when no one stands with you. And sometimes it's a submarine breaking the surface because the sea itself refuses to let you be forgotten. Sarah Hale will not be remembered for how she left. She'll be remembered for why they surfaced. For the flag she held, for the silence that followed her, and for the voices that finally broke it. That's what real command looks like. That's what courage means. Not medals, not speeches, but moments, small brave moments that ripple forever.